up, Myco fam? Thanks for joining us today on the Myco Mentor podcast, where we get you face-to-face with some of the best talent in the mycology space. Whether it's a mycopreneur running a business, a citizen scientist making a difference, or someone doing something interesting with mushrooms, my goal is to showcase and amplify passionate individuals in the mycology space. Today we have with us an absolute legend in the space, Philly Golden Teacher. Philly, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Now, Philly, in 3 years, right? You've been in the space for 3 years. In 3 years, you've started from absolute nothing to having millions of views on YouTube, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You know, is that the accurate timeline of the transition from not being in the space to being somebody, a recognizable figure in the home growing cultivation space? Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah, I mean, what you explained is true.
3 years is such a little time to go from, you know, just somebody who might be excited or interested in the craft to being somebody that's a household name in households which cultivate or are interested in cultivating mushrooms. And, you know, similar to Jacob DeVecchio, he started about 3 years ago, and now everybody knows him as Oklahoma Fungi from his successful mushroom festival in Oklahoma City. It's got to feel really cool to have accomplished that goal. And I'm not even sure if that was your goal when you first set out. I think you were probably guided, like many of us, by just sharing information. But it snowballed into this crazy cool thing. And now you've made a lot of friends and a lot of impact on the community at large. So first I want to congratulate you on that success, but I also wanted to figure out where you started. You know, I like to try and pry into people and get a timeline from where they first got that inkling of an idea that mushrooms are really cool to where they are now. So could you break that down for us? You know, what you were before you were PGT and what kind of got you to where you are now?
Okay. My journey kind of started back in 2017. I went into the whole space. What got me curious about it was a TED Talk that I had come across. And me just being your average Joe, I was going through some mental health issues, and I wanted to try and resolve this issue once and for all. Got me started looking down alternative options for medication at the time, something I was considering. After trying pharmaceutical medications and it not working out, I wanted to try and seek alternatives, and it led me down to a TED Talk talking about psilocybin helping with depression and stuff like that. That's kind of what piqued my interest initially. I got into it. Now, I had tried mushrooms long ago when I was younger, in my college days, and I didn't have a very good experience with it, but it didn't deter me away from trying to seek help for myself, really.
Sure.
That's kind of what led me to doing all of this and got me researching into it. And after I had some successful attempts on my own at trying to, cultivate them, had some great revelations on them. I would say they've changed me, and I just wanted to give back to the community. So kind of from 2017, wasn't until 2020 that I actually started uploading onto YouTube and deciding to share everything. I kind of fell in and out of the hobby with it. When I first got into it, I was into it, and then over the years, I kind of slowed down, and then I think kind of as more progresses had made in the cultivation space, before it was kind of like the PF Tech was your standard thing, and then once you kind of started the introduction of the Uncle Ben stack, kind of simplified everything and made it a lot easier. It made it a lot more friendlier for people to kind of get back into the hobby, and that's kind of what led me to jump back down that rabbit hole. And I just wanted to share my experience with everything, how it's changed me, and if it could change me, it can change other people. So sharing that wisdom kind of, was a calling to me. And at the time, I didn't really expect my channel to blow up the way it did. I did it for fun. I love growing mushrooms, and it was just a fun hobby, and I wanted to just share that hobby with people. At the time, there wasn't a lot of people in the YouTube space making videos, but also kind of where it stands, it kind of makes it difficult at the same time, because I have seen people come and go out of the space throughout the years. And, I'm kind of grateful that my videos have been able to stick around, and I'm sharing the experience that I have with them. And for me, initially it was intimidating, but after you kind of understand the concept of everything, I was able to internalize that. And then they kind of always say, the best way is just try to reteach what you've learned through the experience. And that's what I sought out to do, is teach through my own experience. And yeah, I never thought it would blow up the way it did. But it's kind of changed my outlook on how, and I initially started it as a hobby, and now it's become into like a full-time thing, and it's a lot has changed throughout these last 3 years, and I'm grateful to be in the position that I am to help people, and at the same time help myself. And I just hope that I make the world a little bit of a better place through what I can teach and offer.
Well, and so I want to circle back to, you trying mushrooms and not really having a good experience. Was that a bad experience, or was it just you didn't get any effects, you didn't take anything away from it? What was that first initial grappling with psychedelics that you experienced, and how did that in turn lead you to try again? What was that like?
The first time, it was overwhelming for me. As the trip kind of came on, I had a good experience, and then it turned into a bad experience. And that kind of came with the mental shift in my mindset in terms of settings. My setting had changed, and it put me into a state of paranoia, and whatever you're feeling kind of can get amplified on the experience. It was a really eye-opening experience from it, to be able to view your life and your reality through a different perspective. I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, it made me really think hard about my life and what I'm doing with it and how I'm spending my time. So kind of pushed me towards the right path initially. Yeah. But I never had any intentions of seeking it out anytime from that point onwards until relatively recent, when dealing with my mental health, I wanted to see what was out there, and this is an option. And so I decided, why not give it a try again? And it's something that I always felt positive about. I mean, it's something that's natural in nature. It's been used thousands of years now, thousands before even like laws are made up in terms of how to legalize these things. But people were using it as medicinal practices for thousands of years. So I don't see why it can be that bad. And learning more about the safety structure of everything just gave me more confidence to try and pursue it out and seek it out, to really understand and grasp the potential benefits that these mushrooms have.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, set and setting is definitely very important. When I can think back to one of my bad experience that I had early on when I was just using these recreationally. I didn't really have any intent. I was watching the movie Scanner Darkly. I don't know if you've seen it, but really not the best choice for experimenting with psychedelic mushrooms, and that had turned me off for mushrooms for a while. And I was gearing more towards, I just, at that time in my life, I was using psychedelics more recreationally, and so I would just go, okay, well, mushrooms aren't for me. Acid, let's do LSD instead. Looking back on that, I could see how immature I was and how I was approaching the situation incorrectly. I wanted to feel better, and I would always feel better post-trip, but I didn't set the right intent. And so I think that's something that, rings true in a lot of people's experiences when they're learning about psychedelics. But while I'm talking about that, have you ever experimented with anything else, or are you just strictly mushrooms?
I have experimented with other. I've tried acid. I've tried DMT. I've done number of other substances out there. I would say I'm pretty experienced with it, and it's something kind of why I sought mushrooms out to help me with. My experimentation's gone a little bit too far, and I kind of gone off the deep end. But mushrooms kind of helps grounds me and brings me back to where I should be.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about the chemistry of our bodies that makes some people more predisposed to wanting to experiment with altered states of consciousness. But I know from the time that I knew that I could achieve these altered states of consciousness, I think it was from like DARE in school, and when they were saying, all these drugs are bad and they're going to kill you and they make you see all these funny things. And I'm like, wait, seeing funny things? That sounds interesting. Ever since I can remember, I've been attracted to this, and I think that rings true for a lot of people, that we want to push the limits and to our psyche, see where we can go, see what we can feel, see how we can come out different on the other side. But for a lot of people, I don't think that there's that structure that really shows them, okay, if you want to try and accomplish this safely, do this. I know I was always just like, let's dive right in and see what happens. We'll fuck around and we'll find out later. But now 15, 20 years more mature, I'm very cautious about my approach, and I wanted to ask if your experiences in the last 3 years specifically have kind of tailored your approach a little differently, if you've changed, if you're still indulging in psychedelics for the benefits therein, or if maybe you've calmed down a little bit. What's your day-to-day or week-to-week, or what's your protocol?
Things have definitely calmed down from the initial honeymoon phase with discovering psychedelics. Yeah. I was experimenting quite a bit. And then over time, you build up the experience on trips and after trips, and you learn, you take away something from them. And nowadays, I don't feel the need to trip as much as I used to. Now it's once in a while on a blue moon when I kind of feel the need or the calling. For me, it kind of gives me a little bit of a reminder of the message that got me into this in the first place. And it's a reminder of, one, it shows me partly, who I am, why I decided to do this, and the joy that comes from it. So I take it once in a while now, not too much nowadays, because I know, kind of like once you kind of get the message, hang up the phone. That's the saying that they always like to do. And I've gotten a good understanding of the message, and I try not to forget it. But, once in a while, you might need a little reminder, and it wouldn't be too bad to get a little bit of a reminder.
Like you wake up one day and you're like, you just get the feeling like, oh, today's the day, and I think what a lot of people think is that people who are in the space, like you, me, or anybody else, they think people just think we're constantly just throwing down like half ounces at a time, just tripping face 24/7. And I'm like, no, I think once you get the message, like you said, the phone can sit down, and every once in a while it might ring. But I can't see the benefit of just eating mushrooms all the time, tripping on acid all the time at this point in my life, because like you said, you get the call and you want to hear the message, and you can't hear the message if you're constantly on the phone. So that's interesting, and I think it rings true with a lot of people in their journey and their progress. Myself 15 years ago, I wouldn't see myself how I am now. I would assume that I'd still be doing the same things, but I guess, I grew up a little bit, and I think a lot of people mature in different ways, but I think some people mature a little faster through the use of psychedelics. I know for me, certainly my perspective on everything has changed through psychedelics. So I wanted to ask you if there's any particular revelations, not only about yourself, maybe about the world, any interesting takeaways that you've had from an experience that you wouldn't have gotten or may not have gotten as quickly post-experience. Is there anything, like any revelations you can share with us, or things that you've realized through the experiences with psychedelics?
Revelations-wise, I would say the biggest revelation for me with mushrooms is just discovering what love is, I guess.
Can you dig into that a little bit more?
I don't know. For me, I feel like love is the only thing that kind of matters in our time and perception, our reality, the pursuit of our dreams and our happiness. Everything we do is out of love. And yeah, that's what I feel the world needs more of. Is just the reminder that love exists and that it's not bad. It's a great thing, and it's a harmonious feeling that people unite over, and it's very important not to lose sight of that, because once you lose sight of love, and you kind of lose the drive for life. And I feel part of what makes life so wonderful and enjoying is the ability to love doing what you like to do, love the people that you have connections with, love the activities that you're doing. I mean, it's what drives you, what drives human beings. So yeah, it's kind of why I kind of figured that it's a great help for a lot of people dealing with depression. It's a great change in perspective to view your life as, you can view it through different lenses. If you decide to view yourself as having a low life, crappy, nothing good's going to come out of it, oftentimes nothing good will come out of that kind of thinking. But if you just change your mindset a little bit and just shift into the possibilities and the optimistic views of life, there's a lot of reward to reap from it. And life can be very fulfilling, and it could be very an adventurous thing to go through. It doesn't have to be dreadful and sad.
Yeah. Well, that perspective shift that psychedelics can offer is something that I've personally experienced. And it's great that you say love. For me, a lot of people. I'm going to talk about DMT for a second here. A lot of people say like DMT smells like garbage. It smells like burnt rubber. It smells like shoes. For me, like my revelation, similar to yours, was that DMT smells like love, because every time I'd come back from an experience at 75 milligrams, 100 milligrams of DMT, I would just be so filled with questions, lots of questions, but I'd also be filled with this overwhelming sense of the emotion love, not only for myself, but for the world and everything around me, and the experience of being alive and all of that. And so, I've had a similar revelation, certainly, and it helped me reframe my perspective of how I see everything, and the interconnectedness of different things and all those cliches. But like, it's a really consistent pattern through the discussions that I've had on people with psychedelics, that, love is this force that binds us all together and makes the experience of being alive exciting. So I think you really nailed that one. But while I'm talking about DMT, do you have a preferred psychedelic? I know people always assume that like mushrooms are my favorite thing, and I'm like, DMT's cool. DMT made me put down the phone, and I really rarely pick the phone back up again. So I wanted to ask you, if you had a preference for different psychedelics.
I've had my fair share of them. Acid, I didn't experiment too much, but I've had enough to kind of get the feel for them. It's a lot more
Sure.
lighthearted and electric kind of vibe to them. Mushrooms feel a lot more wavy, a lot more national, a lot more emotional for sure. That's where I found the most healing with is how they can make me more connected with my emotions, emotions that maybe you have suppressed from years of going on. And suddenly it unlocks through a trip and allows you to access emotions that you might have forgotten that you had, have as a human being. So I find a special place for them. I find that all of them, if you take enough of them, they take you to the same place. And in my opinion, I guess, that place that it brings you to is a place that is quite unexplainable. I think of it as just like stepping through to the afterlife, how it exists in parallel with our current universe. And sometimes you get that phase change where you shift over and you get a glimpse of what it's like to be on the other side. It's words cannot explain what it's like. You just kind of get washed up into this flow that just continues going on endlessly. And I think all of them kind of takes you there in the same space. And for me, DMT just kind of takes you just there very quickly. You're on like a rocket ship that just gets brought to that other hyperspace, and a lot of the times you just aren't ready for that shift very quickly. So one of the things I like with mushrooms is it takes you there gradually and it brings you back gradually. DMT is very turbulent. It's so fast that you before you could even get a word out, you're transported already. But the feeling is also quite eerily very similar, in my opinion. That feeling of just being in a different state of consciousness, and you're not quite all there. Your mind, you're kind of in your mind. You're kind of just in this place that that kind of exists, but at the same time it doesn't exist. And yeah, I'm glad that it's very short-lived through DMT, and that I'm kind of can get back to earth just fine within a matter of 10 minutes. Mushrooms can be a little bit longer, but at the same time, it being a bit longer makes the experience a bit more. I can appreciate it a lot more. Not to say that I can't get the same from DMT, but the last 2 times I've tried DMT, I can't say they were a positive experience for me, but they were definitely a learning experience for me.
Well, yeah, with DMT, it all happens so fast, like you said. It's like a rocket ship, and you get all this information so quickly. It feels like a full day, 2 days, a week, and then you're back and 5 minutes have gone by, and then all you can do is go, whoa, what just happened? When you get that threshold dose that puts you there, there's just so much information, and I've literally come back and just said, what the fuck? Like, I don't know, and that's all I could say for like 10 minutes. Just, what the fuck did I just experience? And then like bits and pieces will come back, and you'll kind of get a little bit of that, but it is just so much information. I like how you put that with the mushrooms, that they gradually bring you up and they just gently bring you back down, and so you can navigate through the space. You have a lot more time to process and actually grapple with issues or thoughts. And then, like you said, acid is much more electric. It's still kind of the same vibe, but it's definitely more high energy. And I like to tell people, if they're asking me like, hey, what should I do for psychedelics? I'm like, well, you got to match it with the need. If you're hanging out with friends and you're just having a good time, like acid's probably going to be a better choice for you. If you're trying to deal with some trauma, you're trying to deal with some issues, you're trying to just get inside your own head, mushrooms are much more introspective. And then I'm like, if you just want to go see stuff and not know what's going on, and you want to be back in 5 minutes for work, DMT is definitely and I remember when I first started researching it on Wikipedia like 15 years ago or something, DMT was called the businessman's trip, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, because that's really how to classify it. It's just you're up, everything's crazy, and then you're back, and then that's it, and you're just like, and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, you can just go on about your day. So I think each does have its own unique role. One thing I've never experimented with is ayahuasca. I'd have to really mentally prepare myself for that. Actually, that one intimidates me, if I can be totally honest. Ayahuasca and peyote, like the two where I'm like, I don't know if I have the cojones to grapple with that right now at this point in my life, as a father, as a business owner, as a partner, single me back when I was just by myself experimenting, whatever, sure, no problem. But now it's like the older I get, the more intimidating those things become to me. Have you ever experimented with either of those?
No, but I have looked a lot into ayahuasca, and I guess for me, mushrooms has been like the easier alternative to try and getting the same benefit out of it.
Sure.
I just don't want to deal with the long experience with that, the preparation that comes in with that, the purging that comes with that.
The purging,
it doesn't look, but I can understand that. Ultimately they're psychedelics, so you're going to be getting very similar benefits from the medicine.
Yeah, the purge for me is like the one thing. Like, I don't want to be in the space and then just vomit. Like that whole thing just doesn't sound attractive to me. And I guess that outside of the actual time frame from start to finish that the experience takes, that'd be the most off-putting thing to me that I can think of. And so, if I had the option, I'll pass on that one. But again, like, I don't feel the same itch or desire to get in that space as I did before, because like we've discussed, we kind of got the message, the phone's on the hook, and everything's good there. So that was just I wanted to poke your brain about psychedelics first, because obviously we're in the space. That's a large portion of what you do. But I also want to talk about PGT as a business and get an idea as to how that started. You fully depend on your mycology work for a living right now, right?
Yes.
And see, isn't that a cool feeling that you get to do something that you really love, that you get to help people both directly and indirectly, directly with knowledge and indirectly by giving them the tools by which to get the same benefits that you did. That feels great to me. When I was doing petri dishes and I was doing grow kits and I was doing the manure substrate and stuff like that, I had this epiphany while I was pouring plates one day where, I'd always wanted to just give everybody everything. I wanted to be here's all the mushrooms in the world. Everybody trip, everybody feel better. And then I realized that was coming from an egotistical space. But then while I was pouring these plates in the lab, I had this revelation that, I think at that time we'd done 120,000 plates. And I realized how many grows I indirectly supported by being the plate guy or being the substrate guy. And I started to realize that our footprint in the space is much like the mycelium, where it just spreads out and interconnects, and that was a really good feeling for me. Do you have a similar feeling with what you do, or what does it feel like to be a vendor in the space that's doing this work?
It feels great. It beats sitting in an office babysitting people. That's not how I look at it. That's where I came from initially. And
I like how you said babysitting people. Were you in a managerial role before?
Yes, I was. I managed a call center.
That's funny though that you said babysitting. Oh man, that's why. So call center, was it an IT call center or?
Just service. You call in, you needed service. I manage the people that are on the phones and directing the service. So, we send someone out to help you with it.
Very boring life to live, though, right? I've worked at a call center. I know what the working end's like, but isn't that such a grind to just wake up, go here, go to these cubicles, listen to all these phones all day? That sucks.
It is. It's a grind. But it wasn't too bad. It's nowadays you kind of have to grind to get somewhere. You got to have some discipline in order to, make an honest living. Really, that's all we're doing. But yeah, it's just much more fulfilling being able to interact with the community and help influence them directly, and have these people be so passionate and excited about what you have to offer in terms of you helping them out in their mycology endeavors. There's so many people I've gotten to talk to saying, this might not be much, but this is my first grow, and it's thanks to you. Yeah. And it's that's awesome. You should celebrate it. You can only get that first grow once.
Right.
So afterwards, you get much more grows. But hey, if you're enjoying it, you're having fun, you're this is exciting to you, this brings joy to you, then keep doing it. That's and how long that joy lasts for you, it's entirely up to you what you want to make out of it. I didn't think that 3, 4, or 5 years down the line I would still be doing mycology, but I still very well enjoy being interconnected among the community, and it's kind of like you said, it's like mycelium spreading out there, and my influence has touched a lot of people, and I'm grateful for that. And as long as I can keep doing this and, benefiting a lot of other people in the same way, I'm going to keep doing it. It's my purpose, my, way how I serve to the public. Then yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's
not like you're selling somebody a pack of batteries, right? You're giving somebody something that they can then benefit from if they choose to take it to the step where they're actually growing, and then have real physical and mental transformations that warp their perceptions and ultimately may improve the individual themselves. And that has so much power in it. And that's what I think feels so good about offering products in this space, is that you're indirectly and directly in some ways contributing to the betterment of an individual or maybe a group of people, depending on what they're all doing. But like that just feels good that you're giving somebody something that they can use to better themselves. And like I think that just not only being able to do something that's interesting to you, but something that's benefiting other people, I think is such a win for many people in the space who are doing the same things or similar things. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you said that you didn't think you were going to stay in the space forever. You didn't know if you were going to be here in 3, 4, 5 years. And when I first met you at Myco Fest, at this past Myco Fest, you had opened up to me and said, "Hey, I'm not really sure what to do anymore. I'm not really feeling the same way that I did when I first got started." And it's been 6 months, 5 months, 6 months, something like that since then. And I think that you've kind of grappled with that and tried to do something else. It didn't work out and you came back. Can you dig into that a little bit and explain what your thought processes were, what you were feeling, and where you're at now?
I would say it's part of the pressure of trying to come up with stuff to stay relevant in the space. That definitely gets to you. For me, over time, I just find that if I can just focus in on doing what has been working and just continue at it, that things will continue to grow, really. I mean, I'm in the process of making more videos now. I definitely have been lacking behind some content, and I have a lot of content ideas I want to get out there to the world. There's a lot I want to still contribute and offer, and I'm just kind of slowly chipping away at it and not lose focus of that's kind of what I'm good at and what I like doing. Well,
you say the pressure to create and add new content and things like that. I can definitely resonate with that. I felt the same way a lot. I still do tend to feel that way because, after you've said the core things that you need to say to get your message out there or get your information out there, it's like, how many different ways can I say the same thing? And then, trying to face these algorithms and these monstrous machines that are holding us down as a mycology community. Like I remember one day I was looking at my story counts on a post, and like I was used to getting 10, maybe 12,000 views on a story. It was like 200, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, you're competing against this invisible monster that is the algorithm that's holding us back because we say the words like mushrooms or psychedelics or things like that. And it's like trying to figure out how to navigate through that space really burns you out. And on top of coming up with new content ideas to stay relevant, like that part of being in this position is, to me, the hardest thing that I can handle. And some days, like there's this song by Juice WRLD, the rapper. I don't know if you know who he is, but it's like, I'm not coming to the phone today. Everybody just leave me alone. Like that's how I would feel. I would vibe with that song so hard because like I'd be looking at this thing like, how do I make you happy? What do I have to do? You invisible machine. And like that burnout is real. It physically, like I was depressed because of this, and like I guess they call it like shadow banning or stuff like that too. But like trying to create content on top of just going against this this algorithm is like the hardest thing to do. And so like I can definitely vibe with you on that. But I've seen you coming back in to get into more postings, more YouTube videos. But again, like how do you come up with new ideas when you've already talked about most of the ideas that are out there? Like what's your strategy like for coming up with new content to compete against this stuff?
Experimentation.
Fuck around and find out, right?
Yeah, there's still so much to discover and experiment and try out in the mycology space. There's always something that we can learn from it. It just takes the willing to do it and the experience to go through with it, and you learn something out of it. So experimenting is always fun. I kind of wanted to do something like Mythbusters, but with mycology.
Oh shit, that's cool.
There's a lot of things we are still learning about mycelium, and it's there's still a lot to learn, that's for sure. We don't quite understand mycelium, how it works, but we're getting there. We're trying to, and there's still years and years for us to experiment and learn, especially as things get more decriminalized and more accepted, more research being done onto it. it's a new emerging field, in my opinion, one that hasn't been explored for very long. But I know we have the future, hopefully dependent on things moving right in the future, that we have the opportunity to continue, down the path of exploring this.
Well, I think like breeding, right? Breeding has changed the whole game in the last 3-4 years tremendously. I know 10 years ago, if you would have asked me if there was going to be a mushroom that looked like an amorphous blob that we now know as Enigma, I would have laughed at you and said, like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like golden teachers, PE, and that's it. Like, that's all the market is, right? And now we have so many different breeders breeding different variations and phenotypes coming out that express insane qualities. I think that is going to be a large part of the future of the space, but we're also starting to see a lot of what we saw in cannabis, right? Like where the big corporations come in, they kind of commercialize things, and now like the market out west especially has crashed. I've had people reaching out to me saying, hey, do you know anybody who needs help? Because I'm done growing. I can't keep up. And like, I think that is alarming in some ways, because it's going to push out people who are passionate and have been in the community for so long. I think that there will be a lot of real ones that stick around. There'll be a lot of new ones who learn from the shoulders of the other people who've made these great progresses in the space. But what do you think the future of mycology looks like? Let's just call it 5 years. In 5 years, what are we going to be looking at? What kind of things do you think are going to be popular? Or, what's going to replace, like when we started, the PF Tech, right? That's what everybody knew. Like what's going to be that? Is everybody going to just be growing on 90-second rice bags, or where are we at?
Well, there's different markets for the mycology space. You got your gourmet and medicinal market. You got the commercial growers. You got the home cultivators. And I feel they're going to continue growing at their own individual paths. I would imagine that the home cultivator movement is getting a lot more popular now with how easy it is, and all the different strains, varieties that come up here. It's going to be way more than we know what to do with, because everyone wants to understand it and try and make their own stuff, and it's the market's going to get saturated. This is how it is. I think we're kind of in a time when it's currently still growing. The markets are still growing. As more people find out about this, as the hobby gets bigger, more mycology enthusiasts get into this space. It's just continued growth along all sides. And I think probably within 5-10 years, we would have a lot more decriminalization, a lot more research done. I know right now Canada is kind of leading that movement right now, what they're doing. Yeah. They already took it a step ahead and actually, went ahead with it. And now we see all these vendors popping up in Canada, and a lot of people are starting to get into large-scale grow operations because of this, because the government's not really putting too much effort into it. And now the people are kind of stepping into that gray space area, and I don't know, in a way I find that Canada is kind of leading that movement as of right now, and we kind of see what's going to happen, and eventually I think the United States are going to start following along as well.
Yeah, I think we have to. Canada certainly is a litmus test. I think we're just, as a country, we're just kind of standing back and watching, like taking notes. But I see a lot of positives with their whole decriminalize everything movement, because it just makes sense. I think that just by allowing people to experiment safely with whatever they want to, it creates a lot less demand, and then people don't feel so trapped, and then the rebels don't feel like, oh, I'm just going to go do this stuff because they say I can't. Like, I feel like there's just a lot of reasons that it will benefit us to get there. I think that's on the future radar for sure. Decriminalization of just everything in the U.S. because it doesn't make sense. Everybody knows the drug war failed, and they just wasted a lot of people's lives and spent a lot of money on something that they could never realistically achieve. So let's hope in the next 5 to 10 years that mushrooms follow cannabis. And we start to see more legalization. And I think that's going to be the route, is like all the states that have legalized cannabis in some form are going to be legalizing mushrooms. And then from there, it's decriminalize all entheogens, or I'm not sure what that looks like, but I definitely see that on the roadmap. for the future. And I'm just really excited to have participated in this little blip of time that is the golden age of mushrooms that I think is still ongoing for sure. And I think a lot of states, a lot of the interest in mushrooms is, I think a lot of it starts with the psychedelics, and then people start to look at the gourmets too as another option and the medicinal side of things. At least for me, that's how it was. What's your take on the medicinal mushroom space? Have you delved into supplements? Have you experimented with that? I know I saw you grow some lion's mane. You grew one of my blocks before. But like, how in depth or how ingrained are you in that side of the mushroom world?
I definitely want to try it. I mean, I've grown a number of gourmet mushrooms out just because I like eating mushrooms. They're delicious.
Sure.
So it'd be nice to just grow.
What's your favorite gourmet mushroom?
Morels.
See, I'm salty about morels. I think they're the worst. I'd rather eat a button than a morel, and I hate buttons.
Morels I find nice. Next to that, I like pink oysters a lot.
Pink oysters are good. They have there's two different major varieties. There's the Jamor, and then there's the salmon, Pleurotus salmon. I think it's just salmon. And I find that the salmon, whatever. I find that the salmon one has a little bit less of a waxy texture with the pinks. For me, it's maitake. Everybody thinks it's lion's mane, but like when I come hang out with you eventually, I'm gonna make you some maitake cheesesteaks, and you're gonna be like, bro, this is wild. Like, this is crazy. I can't believe you can do that with maitake.
I didn't know you could make cheesesteaks with them. I've had them in
bro.
Soups and stuff like that.
Nah, man, you cook it up with some onions and some peppers, throw some red sauce in there, put some nice cheese on a nice, good, soft roll or a hard roll. I don't want to knock you. I know you're in Philly, so you probably got some preferences. But actually, what we're talking about, Geno's or Pat's?
Oh, I've had those too. I don't know. My preference goes to Jim's Steak down in South Street.
Everybody says Jim's. What I do is I go to Geno's and then I go to Pat's, and then I have one of each, so I don't have to decide.
Yeah, I don't know. If I had to decide, I would have picked Geno's.
All right. Do you do it with cheese or without? With.
I'm not a big fan of the Wit Whiz.
No, I don't do it either. It always struck me as odd.
I personally
I tried it once.
I personally just like provolone with my cheesesteaks.
Right. I had to ask because you're in Philly, and that's a big Philly thing. For anybody who hasn't been to Philly,
I've had it just to see what all the hype's about.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm not into it, but like when I was a kid, I would just eat the Cheese Whiz from the can, and like now I just hate it as an adult. Cause I'm like, yeah, that's disgusting to me. So I can't deal with all that. So now, what are you working on right now? What's the big move for PGT? You're making more content. I love your Mythbusters idea. On your website, you're selling the trading cards, which I think are pretty cool. I got a pack from you at Myco Fest with like a spore print. Like what are you doing? I know you've got your Patreon where people can get access to your videos early, your genetic drops early, access to your Discord. What else are you doing? What's your website looking like now, and what are the future moves for PhillyGoldenTeacher.com?
There's a backlog of other ideas that I'd have, but like I said, they're in the backlog right now. It's only so much you can focus on at a certain time, so I like to keep it on like one or two projects, just so I don't overwhelm myself with keeping up with everything. And then, if things get overwhelming, then you just don't want to do it. So keep it one thing at a time, and it's kind of simple to kind of knock things out. As things
it'll actually get done. It'll get done efficiently without all the chaos of trying to do too many things at once. I've been there, I've done that, and it doesn't work, so I can respect that. I have a few more questions for you before I let you go. I want to know what PGT does in his off time. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you just like, do you play the guitar? Like, do you play the flute? Do you like watch birds? Like, what outside of mushrooms excites you?
A lot of it, I spend time with my family. Majority of it goes to family time, spending time with my dogs. I have 3 dogs. I have my wife. No kids right now. Not sure we're going to have the kids anytime soon. I mean, the 3 dogs themselves are already a lot of responsibility. But we enjoy them, their company, the love that they have, the companionship. So I take them for walks every day. I'll do little short training sessions with the dogs, try and get them to be more obedient. Other than that, me and my wife, we like to go out together. We went to the Eastern State Penitentiary a couple days ago. We found out that the library nearby us gives free attraction passes, so you get to go to museums in the area for free, as long as there isn't a big wait list for the attraction pass.
Yeah.
But we discovered that, and we've been checking out places. We went to a Japanese garden down at Fairmount Park. Just little outings here and there, just to get us out and enjoying, the other things that are out there besides mycology. We like to bike ride together. We'll go to the parks. Just go for a walk, really. Simply just being out in nature, taking a break from social media and technology, and just being out in nature is just...
It's important.
It's very important.
So
yeah, other than that...
When you're in the lab, sorry to cut you off. Yeah. When you're in the lab, what are you jamming to? Like, what are you listening to? You listen to a podcast? You listen to music? Like, what are you... Like, I don't know if you're an EDM guy, if you're listening to bluegrass. Like, where on the spectrum musically are you at? Or maybe you're just listening to, like, an audiobook or something.
Most of the time, I listen to Spotify. I've been using Spotify for years now, and I have built up like a big collection of my songs. So I just shuffle through that as I work throughout the lab. From time to time, if I'm in the mood for a podcast or something, I can put that on, something mycology related. Sometimes I listen to Yoshi, I'll listen to Microtrophic or Mycogeeky, just to kind of catch up on mycology information as I'm doing mycology work. But otherwise, I like jamming to music that I like. The music that I listen to, Spotify rap kind of told me that I guess majority of the genre I listen to is more like EDM or pop music.
Okay.
But I'll have some rap here and there. I like NF, I like Hobson, and I like Joyner Lucas.
Hobson goes hard, yeah.
Tom McDonald's, I don't know, Dax. I like finding out new artists and discovering them, and and
bro, I didn't picture you as a Tom McDonald fan. That's interesting.
He's got some good songs. I like his lyrics.
He does. No, I caught on to him during COVID, and I vibed with a lot of his stuff, and was like, oh, this is interesting. How do you feel about the new stuff?
I like it. I like he's experimenting. I like he's trying different things. It's
yeah, he's all over the place, just doing whatever. Just like you said earlier, you just fuck around, and find out, and experiment.
I know. I mainly hear him as a rapper, but hearing the new song he came out where he's singing the Superman song, that was a breath of fresh air. I really enjoyed that one.
And then him playing the guitar and stuff too. It's just that he's just outside of the comfort zone, and he's just trying whatever, and I think people love him for that.
People can relate,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what makes a good musician, I think, or a good entertainer in general, is just getting people to relate. And I think that's what you do so well with your YouTube videos. You don't give them a 30-minute lecture. You just give them, here's a short, sweet, condensed version. This is what you need to know. Boom. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. And I love that. I think that's what led to a lot of your success on YouTube, is just being able to give people complicated information at a high level, give them the steps they need to succeed, cut out all of the fat, and present it in a nice, clean way. I think that's what... I think your biggest video was, 1.3 million views? What is it, the Broke Boy Tech?
I think so. Yeah, that's the first video I had out, and it's been doing well.
Bro, how'd you feel when you woke up and noticed that was 1 million views? Did they give you an email and say congratulations, or how'd you find out that you had 1 million views?
I'd been eyeing it. When it got up to the 900Ks, just been kind of watching out for it. It's gonna break a bill. Yeah. It's just a matter of when. But there is a website that I deal with that kind of emails me or lets me know when certain milestones have been reached on my channel. I think it's part of vidIQ or something like that. So yeah, it's when I got into making YouTube videos, I kind of wanted to get the tools needed to try and do well on the platform. So vidIQ was one of the resources that I've used throughout the way making my videos.
And so what happened that day, though? I want to know, like, did you just wake up and get the email and we're like, holy shit, this is crazy, I got 1 million views? Were you, like, hanging out with the dogs at the park and you got this email? Like, when did that happen? What did that look like? And how did you react? Did you celebrate? Like, what was that about? Because I don't know.
I mean, I shared it with a couple of my friends, showing them, like, hey, my video broke 1 million views. So that's pretty much it. I didn't make a big stink out of it or anything. I just know if I continue to keep at it, keep doing it, it'll accumulate, and it's just a matter of when. I don't know. I had like this premonition that eventually one day my channel could break 1 million subscribers. It's just a matter of when. Hopefully YouTube doesn't kick me off its platform. But if I continue doing this for like 5-10 years, it's very possible to break that 1 million mark. It's just the amount of time and how well your content can get discovered out there onto the platform.
Absolutely, and just by connecting with like-minded people, collaborating. I know you did the monotub with Boomer Shroomer with Ashley Enders. I think that will ultimately help you get there faster. I know that working together, we can get a lot further than just trying to do it all ourselves. And so before I let you go, I hear your dogs are really excited for playtime. I wanted to ask one more thing.
So they're excited.
Oh, okay. One more thing, though. Like, do the people in your life, I know you like to keep things, your personal identity very separate from, the brand itself, but do the people in your life know what you do, or do you tell them that you're like an analyst or trade Bitcoin or something?
It depends on the people in my life.
Sure.
Some people that I trust, they know what I do. Other people that I kind of keep as like acquaintances, I don't share too much about it. If they ask, what I do, I just sell mycology supplies, and they're like, oh, what's mycology?
Sure.
And I'm like, it's the study of fungi, and usually that's kind of like it. They kind of just drop it off there. They're not too keen.
They're like, oh, that's neat. See ya.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's the usual interactions I would get.
No, I know, and it's like you have to be very specific. If you say fungi, they're just like, whatever. If you say mushrooms, then their eyes glaze over and they're like, huh, you want to talk about that a little bit more? And it's like, okay, so I've learned the same thing. We sell, like, for the performance fungi, we sell nutritional supplements, because every time if I say I make a mushroom supplement, they're like, bro, is it that kind? And it's like, no, like, all right, like, let's everybody consistently. So, that was like all I had for you, Philly. I really, really appreciate you coming on to talk a little bit more about who you are as a person. I also appreciate you coming up to me at Myco Fest and being like, you talked to me for like an hour before, like, you were like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm Philly. I'm like, oh shit, like you're the guy. I thought it was pretty cool. Do you have any plans to come out into the public space a little bit more, or are you just going to keep it reserved and safe? That's my final question, and then we'll leave you with that.
I want to attend more festivals like Myco Fest and Mushroom Festivals. I want to go out there and meet other people. I try and keep things pretty hush-hush if I can. If I like you, then I'll let you know who I am.
So, thanks for liking me, I guess. That's a pat on the back.
It's. I've seen what it can be like, and I'm not all about that. I can see people lining up and trying to. I don't know. I like keeping my privacy the way it is. It's nice to know that I can always revert to my own comfortable area where I don't have to be known by 100,000 people or anything like that. I can just be me. So I like having that option. So.
Well, and you can sleep at night at the end of the day. Like, I think that's really what a lot of it is. At least it was for me. Was just being able to sleep at night and know that nobody really knows who I am. Because once I came out in the public space, I started getting weird letters from people. I got ransom note style letters with just talking about weird anti-government stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? It's only happened a few times, but I've been in at the gas station up the street from my house, and dude's like, hey, I follow you on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's also want to be insulated. Like I don't know. Like I didn't like that feeling personally. So I can definitely relate. I know like going to the Oklahoma Mushroom Festival with Jacob, being able to see like Baz or like Tip of the Cap like in person was kind of cool. But like when I saw Baz, like I didn't know it was him because I've never seen his face, and I was like, bro, like why are you putting your face out there? He's like, I just want to come hang out. And so I can definitely get that. Like when we were at Myco Fest, you had left already, but I had a guy come up to me like, "Hey, bro, I heard Philly's here. Can you like show me where he is?" And I was like, "I don't know, bro. Like I don't know where he's at or what he's doing." And it's not my position to just be like, "There he is." So like I can definitely understand that sentiment too, where you don't want people just like, "Oh my god, I don't want to line up people signing autographs and stuff like that." Like I think you're more motivated by the mushrooms themselves and not necessarily the notoriety that comes with the brand, which I can definitely respect. And so I really just again I had to thank you for your time, for coming on here. I know you're a very busy dude. Anything I can do to help promote all of his stuff will be in the description. And I think that about wraps it up. Philly, thanks again for coming on the show today. Really appreciate your time, and good luck with all of your future endeavors.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll be on again.
Of course, bro. Next time we'll have to do it in person. We'll figure out how to get your unicorn corgi out there, and we'll do it in person.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
All right, brother. Thank you again. Much love.